Baba Yaga is a mythical forest witch, an old crone who flies around in a mortar cup and lives in a house that walks on 2 chicken legs. She is ugly, but is a mysterious reoccurring character within Slavic mythology that possesses very powerful magic. Would you want Baba Yaga as your grandmother?
TikTok made me buy this. It's a flame humidifier that looks insane and makes your room smell amazing. Just add water and perfume or cologne and you're good to go.
These are 8 horrifying facts that will probably keep you up at night. There are thousands of old diseases frozen in the glaciers of the world, and global warming will eventually release them all. If a person dies in their costume at Disney, like Mickey Mouse, they have to be sat down on a bench so it looks like they're resting. Climate change is making spiders bigger. Some female spiders allow their young to eat them alive. Tooth in the eye surgery is when surgeons put a tooth in a blind person's eye to restore their sight. It was pioneered in the 1960s, and it actually works, and it's still being done today. The chances of a successful CPR outside of a hospital is only 7%. Cell phones are 10 times dirtier than a toilet seat. When you suddenly wake up during the night without any reason, there was someone or something staring at you. Yeah, there's a lot more, like for part 12.
It's time for Cookies and Crime listener stories. This is part 2 of The Attic Ghost. Around 11 that evening, my daughter had woken up fussing because she was teething, and I took her out of her crib as normal and brought her into our room to lay down with me until she fell back asleep. As soon as I sat down on the bed, my bedroom light went on, and all of the paperwork and trinkets that I had on our dresser flew off as if somebody had just run their arm all the way across it. So that was the sign I needed to get out. And then as I started out of the bedroom, something slammed against the attic door again. And this time the fish tank not only shattered, but completely fell over. As I rushed to grab our bags and get out the door, I heard growling behind me and had a knife fly at me and hit the front door as I was opening it. I slammed the door shut and in the freezing cold, sat on the front stoop, bawling with my 1-year-old who was also freaking out. I have never felt such a dark presence in my entire life, and I will never live in Bendersville, Pennsylvania again.
Dirty facts about history that school probably didn't teach you, part 4. King Herod had his wife's body preserved in honey after she died. He then proceeded to have sex with her dead corpse for 7 years. Oh honey. Albert Einstein not only married his first cousin Elsa, but also cheated on her with over 10 other women. Catherine the Great hired full-time professional foot ticklers whose only job was to tickle her feet and sing her songs. Soldiers during World War I were so desperate to get off the battlefield that they intentionally tried to get STDs so they would be discharged and sent home. In the 17th century, there was a form of twerking called molding cockle bread. It was the craze for young women at the time and turned the mundane actions of making bread into a sexual fun act.
It took me about 30 minutes to get her ass back into her little container. No more TikToks for her till after Halloween.
Serial killers who are now free, the true menaces to society. Issei Sagawa is a murderer, cannibal, and necrophile who was deemed unfit to stand trial by reason of insanity. So he now roams the streets, free to do as he pleases. Pedro Lopez, a Colombian serial killer and child rapist, who is responsible for the death of at least 110 young girls, also claimed to have murdered over 300 victims in total. He was released from a Colombian asylum in 1998 and was never...
Lavender Town. Pokemon is a very well-known adventure game that shaped the childhoods of multiple generations. They had books, TV shows, movies, merchandise, just about everything you can think of, they had. So why am I talking about such a positive, adventurous family video game on this channel? This is because of one of the darkest stains on Pokemon's legacy, Lavender Town. You see, Lavender Town was an urban legend surrounding a town that was in the best Pokemon game, Pokemon Red. You see, the whole Pokemon Red game had a very adventurous, fun vibe around it. You would hear happy songs and you see a lot of like fun people and just battle against other Pokemon trainers. But the entire vibe changed once you entered Lavender Town. There's a gigantic graveyard within the city, and above all else, once you step into the city, you're greeted by a haunting song. And this song is actually the center for this entire urban legend, because it was reported that this song actually caused 100 Japanese children to themselves in the spring of 1996, which was around the release of this amazing game. Now, it's commonly believed that this was just a myth, but I guess we'll never really know the secrets behind.
Here is part 2 of the true story behind the 1982 movie The Entity. Last I left off, I was talking about this most famous photo from the Entity case where there is a bend of light surrounding doors. There's actually 2, and it doesn't bend to the angle of the room, meaning that that arc of light is its own entity, so to speak. Now, Dr. Barry Taff and Carrie Gaynor also noticed that Doris could summon the spirits by cursing, yelling, and provoking them, essentially, and her son Brian could also make the entities appear by playing music from Black Sabbath. Yes, I'm talking about the band Black Sabbath. During one disturbing incident, lights began to appear and there was this like green fog, smoke type of activity happening. And that fog started to emerge and took the form of a humanoid figure. The final investigation that Dr. Barry Taff and Carrie Gaynor did at Doris Bither or Byther's house happened on Halloween. And apparently nothing happened that night. Doris and her family eventually moved up to Northern California. First they moved to Carson, then to San Bernardino, and then they moved to Texas and then back to San Bernardino. But around this time, Doris stopped contacting Barry Taff and Carrie Gaynor. According to a testimony by her son and Barry Taff and Carrie Gaynor, neighbors did start to experience paranormal activity wherever Doris and her family moved to, so it seemed like whatever was going on was attached to her. It's interesting to note that to this day, Dr. Barry Taff doesn't believe that Doris was actually essayed by the entity. He and Carrie Gaynor speculate that maybe what Doris was encountering was poltergeist activity, which is a form of psychokinesis and essentially kind of comes from within you. It's not a conscious entity. And when you consider Doris's, traumatic childhood and all of the issues that she's encountered throughout her life, maybe this was a way of her dealing with those situations. Dr. Barry Taff was also speculating that maybe there was epilepsy that had a hand in this as well, but Doris didn't have any signs or symptoms of having epilepsy. He did want to do additional testing and research and study on Doris to see if there was a link between epilepsy and paranormal activity. But unfortunately, Doris passed away in either 1995 or 1999. Her life continues to be a mystery for many paranormal researchers. And there is so much more to the case, so if you have questions, please post them in the comments. This is basically the very shortened version of the Doris Bither case. So I'm open to answering questions, or if you have any questions about what my theories are, feel free to put them in the comments. And if you do decide to watch the movie, content warning, there is SA, abuse. It can be very triggering if you are a survivor.
This 15-month-old baby kept disappearing from her crib in the middle of the night until her mom decided to install a security camera. 15-month-old Chloe had her own bed with safety guards. Every night her parents, Chris and Nina, would put their baby daughter to bed and close the door so they could get some sleep. Until one morning, Nina woke up early and went into the kitchen to make some breakfast. As she was making her coffee, she looked over and was shocked to find Chloe playing with her toys in the living room, surrounded by the family's 2 golden retrievers. Chris and Nina immediately checked her bed and couldn't understand how she got out of the room because she wasn't tall enough to reach the doorknob. The parents thought this was a one-time thing, but it happened time and time again, so one day they decided to install a baby cam in Chloe's bedroom. And the next morning, after Chloe had escaped again, they went to the baby cam to see what had happened, and they were absolutely shocked by the footage. Like
drawings done by serial killers.
Run, rabbit, run, rabbit, run, run, run. Run, rabbit, run, rabbit, run, run, run.